On LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just such a treasure trove for building your brand, growing your visibility, and really finding your audience so that you can create new opportunities. It's very, very often not understood and misused.
Mm.
But I promise that there is so much opportunity on LinkedIn. Your profile's not your resume. Make that to, something that is beautiful and lively and updated, putting out content, all of these things, connecting with people. I would almost guarantee those small businesses can really reap major rewards.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, a serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Rachel Lee, and Rachel grew up in LA or Los Angeles, and had a passion for connecting or passion for people and connecting with people. Went to undergrad at Madison, Wisconsin, and after graduating, worked at a marketing agency. Then went back and got an MBA. I think it was in Texas, but I could be wrong. Then went to work for Microsoft after that. And then about a year and a half ago, I decided to go out on her own with her husband and do their own firm. So, with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Rachel.
Great. Thanks for having me today. That was the fastest, that was like do my whole life in like 1 minute. It's perfect.
Hey, it's a talent I have. I take everybody's life and condense it into 30 seconds, and then there isn't anything more to talk about. No, I'm
And
just
that's
kidding.
it. We're done. Perfect.
So now that I condense it into the 30-second version, let's unpack it a bit. So tell us a little bit about how your journey got started in LA.
Well, LA, I was born. I was born and raised in LA, so grew up in California. And I left LA when I was 18, right, to go to the University of Wisconsin, Madison. And if you have podcast listeners from the Midwest, I just absolutely love the Midwest. And I'm so grateful that I spent several years. Just like good people, good cheese, good beer, good football. Uh,
Mm.
um, so yeah, so I've always had a really business minded family, and that's what I did when I did my undergrad. I lived in Chicago for a bit, so for any people that live in Chicago, and I moved to New York, I was working on the agency side. So when you think about marketing agencies and how they're supporting the bigger brands, that's what I was doing. I was supporting Unilever and I was supporting other big clients. And that's what really had me understand brand marketing and decide that I want to be at the big brands. I want to work on that side of the house and really learn how to build global brands and bring them to
Mm.
market. And ultimately what that is about, Devin, is people. It's not just about the people that you're working with, but the people that you're serving with the product or service. So the agency days really kind of laid my foundation and helped me realize I wanted to go into corporate. And that's why I got my MBA.
Now let me just dive in just one question real quick. Was it a single agency? Was it 20 agencies? Or how, when you were working with the agencies, doing the marketing and working with some of those different brands, just give us an idea, kind of what that part of the journey was about, or was kind of over.
So I personally worked for one agency, but I worked with many agencies, right? So we did advertising and marketing,
Mm.
different, experiential marketing, digital marketing. Really, first campaign that I worked on in 2010 was for Axe, and it was when Twitter was really popping, and we were doing for Axe One Night Only, a new line of body wash and all that stuff for guys, and we were giving tickets to secret concerts with big names like OAR and Weezer, but you didn't know who the guest was going to be. The only thing you knew is you were going to have a secret show in a secret location, and you were going to finding the location to get those tickets on Twitter. And so that's the kind of marketing agency, that creativity, that way of bringing new ways to meet your customer and surprise them, and also showcase, what the product or service is. That's how my career started. When I got the MBA at the University of Texas McCombs School of Business, that's what brought me to Austin, Texas, and that's where I am today.
So
Um,
now let me dive in, just ask one more question, just because I'm curious on along the journey. So, so you're working with a lot of big brands, it's always, and I used to work with, on the legal side, you work with the big brands and everybody always knows who you're working with. And sometimes people love that and they, love to name drop. And other times you say, no, I don't care if I work with big brands or it doesn't matter. And so, but it's always one where gives the appearance of, hey, you've got it made, you're working with big brands, they have big budgets, and why would you want to change? So kind of what was, I know you touched on it briefly, but what was the genesis for deciding to go back, do the MBA and go a bit of a different route?
Yeah, for me, I wanted to work at the big brands, and it is hard to get a job in marketing at a major Fortune 100, Fortune 500 company. With Now, you don't need to have an MBA, but what you need is a way in. And that for me was the MBA. The MBA was a great learning opportunity on multiple levels.
Hmm.
Really pushed me, and was a way to build a different kind of network that I knew could help me get in front of those corporations. And not, I mean, it's changing a lot, with the requirements to work at any company, as we're evolving,
Hmm.
luckily. But that for me was my rationale, and part of the reason why I did that journey. And I absolutely loved my MBA experience, and I absolutely love UT, and I still work very closely with the students, the Masters of Science, and the McCombs, the MBA students. So I still love supporting them on what's going on in the industry and how they build their careers.
Oh,
Uh,
that's awesome.
yeah.
So now you went and got the MBA, say, okay, like to want to work with the big brands, wanted to work, in-house or directly with them. In order to do that, at least, at the time and time they did it, and kind of the best path forward was to say, hey, I'll go get an MBA, can get some of that business background, get some experience, make some connections, and come out and have that opportunity. And sounds like, so you went and got the MBA, and then I think when we talked before, after you graduated and got the MBA, then you went to work for Microsoft. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So during the experience, you actually try to land a big opportunity for an internship in the summer, for a full-time program at least. You do that the summer between your first and second year.
Hmm.
Um, and I landed the internship opportunity with Microsoft, and that was really life-changing because I didn't actually think that I was going to be in tech. I was originally looking at CPG kind of companies, but really fell in love with Microsoft's mission. And I really was like, this just looks culturally like a place, like the people I talked to, and the feedback was so great. So that internship, by the end of the summer, I was offered a full-time position, which was amazing. And most certainly would have been so hard to land that kind of an opportunity without the MBA, right? Without having just the exposure to
Hmm.
it all. Now I think with LinkedIn, and there's a lot more networking that's done online, but it wasn't even as strong when I was applying. So that's what started my career at Microsoft, not only in tech, but really what people would consider more B2B marketing. Software, working with other businesses, really thinking about the channel. I was specifically working with the Microsoft Partner Network, doing all sorts of things from
Hmm.
blogging, social media. I ran the podcast. I'm the host of the Microsoft podcast for a year and a half. You can still listen. Um, and I led a really big branding repositioning project. And that was just some of the things that showed me, what that world of working inside an ecosystem is like, and in software. And also inside of a company, 100,000 plus people, you kind of have to mine your way through building your career and really standing out.
Makes perfect sense. So now you come and you get the MBA, and then you get to go work for the big company, you get to do a lot of the enjoyable things. And now fast forwarding, how long, or I guess before I fast forward, how long were you or worked with Microsoft, or how long were you there?
Yeah, I was there for a few years and I was in Seattle. I actually moved back to Austin to pursue love and family. I was still working for Microsoft, but I was a remote employee, which wasn't very common in 2017.
Mm,
And I moved back to Austin, and being a remote employee wasn't the best at the time. And I made the shift and I got a job with Gartner. So I then worked for another multi-billion-dollar company, but this time IT research and consulting. And I specifically was able to have a brand manager function and work specifically on one of the brands called Software Advice. So that was really cool. That's that foundation of being on the consumer side, working with big brands, being in tech, being more B2B, really laid the foundation for, the lady boss that I am today, the one that wants to really connect with people at a human level, not just be marketing to market and have transactions, but to create human connections that lead to opportunities. And that's what we do with Standout Authority. And I made that leap a little over a year ago.
awesome. No, it makes sense. So now when you're doing that, you worked with two big, huge billion-dollar companies, Fortune, whatever, 100 probably. But now as you're coming out, what was kind of the genesis or the motivation for saying, hey, I'm gonna jump out on my own, go do something with my husband, try something different? Was it always wanted to do my own thing, or my husband wanted to do my own thing, or we had an opportunity we couldn't pass up, or kind of what was that, motivation, or that genesis for saying, hey, we're gonna, after I got the MBA to work for the big companies, I decided to go out on my own?
Yeah, it's a great question because so many of us over the last few years with COVID and the great resignation and great reimagination and great reshuffle and so many shifts that are going on in our economy and in our careers, I think a lot of people are experiencing what I experienced, which was I have a great job and I see a major trajectory. I can be C-level if I want, I see that path. I had a great manager. For me, I just felt disconnected and that my purpose wasn't being ignited, that it was great money and a great, all the things on paper. It just didn't feel, there was that feeling in my tummy that there was something more, that I could share my voice in a much greater way, that I could reach people, individuals in a way that goes way beyond being inside of a company that many times gets focused on revenue and transactions. And that for me, living and my career is just a really important part of my being. Not
Mm,
everyone cares that much about their job, Devin. There are a
that,
lot of
that's
people
true.
like like the reason why a lot of people aren't entrepreneurs or take this path is because it's very hard and you really need to care about what you're doing. You have a vision that you don't think can be achieved by working for somebody else.
No,
So
I definitely agree. I think, defending the people, everybody has their different things that they,
100%.
enjoy, that they're motivated by and want to do it. Sometimes it's hobby, sometimes it's work, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's religion, politics, combination of all the above. And so I think that finding that balance makes a big difference, and you can find, what drives you to enjoy as you do so. Now, one question, maybe just to follow up. So you may decide to make the leap, and I believe that your husband also was working with you or founded it with you. Did he want to do the same thing, or how did that combination of you guys coming together to both start the current business come about?
Yeah. So my husband's Joshua B. Lee and I'm Rachel B. Lee. He's a 20 plus entrepreneur. I mean, he's had 15, 16 companies. Standout Authority is that 16th company. Um, so he had created Standout Authority, but it wasn't his real focus until the last several years.
Mm,
So in being with him and being exposed more and more to my dad, my family I come from a family of entrepreneurs, truly. Um, I think that gave me the faith that okay, kind of leave this and there is something started already, right? Josh already had built a foundation. But we could really come together and completely change what we want Standout Authority to be, given my expertise, change the way the audiences that we attract. And we have a really big mission. Our mission is to completely humanize the way in which we market online. Like every conversation, we want to have a real human conversation, which is interesting, right? When we're living in a world of Web3 and AIs and bots and people like, mass messaging, we want to find in all of that magic that there is still an opportunity to have real human conversations that lead to opportunities. And so that's kind of, we've teamed up, we have very different backgrounds, but together really attract a diverse array of people and can provide the opportunity to grow your visibility, grow your brand, your personal brand. To us, it's all about the personal brand.
No,
And
definitely.
opportunities, and that LinkedIn is, a really powerful place to do that.
No, couldn't agree more. And I think there's a lot of great takeaways on that. Now, maybe just, kind of to, I don't know, I was going to say wrap it up, but the journey's never really wrapped up. But, as far as kind of to catch us up to where you're at in the present day. So you decided, okay, gonna go out, but my husband's already done this multiple times, gives me a bit of confidence. It'd be great to work with them, gives me new opportunity, kind of scratches an itch, so to speak. Now, how did it go? I mean, I've seen some couples work well together and some that end up hating each other at the end. I've seen startups, that do wonderfully and take off and are rocket ship, and other ones that flounder or don't last. And so kind of give us an idea as to, once you made that leap, decided to, one, work with your husband, and two, go out on, and do a startup or do a small business. How did all of it go, and kind of where's it at today?
Well, it's been a hard year, I'm going to be truthful. When literally the last day of my job in corporate, Josh had just torn his Achilles at this event that we were at. So he tore his Achilles, couldn't walk, couldn't drive, was physically and mentally not in a great place. And I just had to kind of jump into it all and take care of the family, right? And learn the business. And that was hard for us to sort of mush into a common mission, as well as really distinct roles and responsibilities. Whether you're working for your husband or any partner, when you're in business together with somebody and there's 2-3 seats or whatever at the table, because I'm a co-owner, right? That is some of the hardest things to figure out, is who's doing what's our ultimate goal, and where's my territory, where's your territory. And so we are doing that, but also I have 2 stepchildren, right? Like, we're also parents and real humans with lives. So I think that it has been hard, and by going through some of those ups and downs and being kind of pushed, not just in the business when we've lost clients, or we brought in an entire content capability. That is not a joke when you're running content on behalf of people, graphics. It's a whole thing. We kind of had to learn and really figure out that this is our real value proposition as business. And that has been really rewarding. While you're just in it, you get clearer and clearer and clearer on what are we trying to do, as you sort of like, that didn't work. This is it. This is making sense. And so it's been a really challenging, but really cool year. I can't believe that I've already been in Standout officially over a year.
Well, sounds like it's been a good journey, and as all businesses go, there's the ups and downs, things to figure out, pivots to make, and it's never a straight journey. And so it sounds like your journey is no exception, which is a great way to do it. So, well, now as we've kind of caught up to the present day, and kind of where you're at and where the journey's taken you, it's a great time to transition to the 2 questions I always ask at the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. So when I first came on and we were getting a lot of traction with Clubhouse. I don't know if you were kind of hopping into the Clubhouse days, and um we were like on it all the time, and it was like I was having addiction issues, honestly. Like the dopamine was so crazy with Clubhouse. But in talking with all these people, we really thought we would make an on-demand class. A lot of people have courses, and I think there's a lot of value in that. And we do teachings. Now we train more live than on
Mm,
demand based off of we basically spent several $1,000s putting together a really great course, video production, and made it look really beautiful. And because the branding lady boss, and
mhm,
we hadn't really tested out that proof of concept that people want to go through this sort of recorded process in this manner. We should have first, and it didn't really land immediately. It just the cause that didn't land, but we had just spent a lot of money in producing an entire course,
mm.
which is a huge learning I've had through mentors and through this process is just when you are a small business, do the proof of concept, even if it's super scrappy and you're using weird Excel sheets and bad click funnel pages, like, and it's very manual and you're using the video that you record, whatever it is. Test out a concept and make sure that the market needs it and that there's real potential for you to make money off of that before you spend so many hours and so much money. And so we really live that now, where it's like we need to run something for a while and let it be scrappy in the beginning before we put too much of an investment in something.
No, I think that that's absolutely correct. And it's a hard one to learn. It's one I think a lot of people have to learn. It's always a hard mistake because one, you're saying, well, if we do it bad, maybe nobody will use it. Or I don't know, bad. Do it minimalistically is probably a better way of saying it. Nobody will use it because it won't really portray what we're doing. Or, hey, it
Yeah.
will take us, so much time to do it the manual way instead of the automated way or whatever that is, or we have to have the perfect website to look professional. There's I think some truth to that, but I think all too often, as you kind of highlighted, is you let that kind of steer the ship and you invest a lot more time, money, and effort without really knowing if there's going to be a return. Whereas if you're to start smaller or more minimalistically, or as a proof of concept, see if it's going to do that or if it's going to fly, then you can always build up from there. And I think that there's always a lot of that fear, but I think it's one that it's a great mistake to learn from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now the second question I always ask is, now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you give them?
Be on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just such a treasure cove for building your brand, growing your visibility, and really finding your audience so that you can create new opportunities. It's very, very often not understood and misused.
Hmm.
But I promise that there is so much opportunity on LinkedIn. Your profile's not your resume. Make that to, something that is beautiful and lively and updated, putting out content, all of these things, connecting with people. I would almost guarantee most small businesses can really reap major rewards.
No, I think that's definitely great piece of advice, and some people should certainly take to heart. So, well, now as we've kind of wrapped up the episode, we've heard where you got where the journey is taking you, and gotten some great advice. As we wrap up, first of all, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, if people want to reach out to you, if they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go to standoutauthority.com. On there, we have all of our information. We have where you can get information on our community, where we offer training and all sorts of guidance. You can reach out and submit a contact information. So then we'll get back to you. And also just on LinkedIn, Instagram, Clubhouse, Facebook. I'm the Rachel B. Lee, and especially on LinkedIn, very active. Love for people to say hi, say I heard you on, Devon's podcast. I love that. And so often people don't personalize those connections and do that, but it's so fun when we hear that.
Absolutely. Definitely encourage people to reach out, connect, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you again for coming on the podcast. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things of listeners. If you can click subscribe, share, and leave us a review, it helps us to make sure that everyone finds out about all these awesome journeys. And last but not least, if you ever need help with your patents, your trademarks, or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Rachel, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you.